If you have any questions, you can unmute and you can check out. So, okay. So I have the first question from Ravi: why we can't export in CSS file, and what is the type equal to module index.html? This is the part of JavaScript, Ravi, which you would have already known. Anyway, like I have even explained that. Just to tell you, uh, anytime we are using the importing keyword, import keyword can only be used into the file which is used inside your HTML as a module. Only a module type of JavaScript code can only make use of import. Okay, the main reason why we are going to type equal to module in the time of script. Okay, so which actually says that that piece of JavaScript has to be imported as a that script that particular JavaScript file has to be loaded in the HTML as a module file. Only the piece of code which is having module that can only use the import. Okay, it is not mainly to use the export keyword, but to mainly to use the import. Okay, so the import only the guy who is being used as a module, that is where we'll be using the import keyword. Okay, and yes, we can even import an external CSS also. Okay, we can actually use the multiple CSS files into one single CSS file. Okay, that also we will be covering. Okay, so what actually we were discussing in the last class, guys? Are you returning India on 23rd September? From 23rd of October, sorry, on 23rd morning, 8:30, I'll be reaching Pramila, mostly, I mean, for everyone. That day, I may not take the class. 22nd is the one evening or afternoon I'll be starting. From 24th, we will be having, as usual, online, offline continuation of the classes will be there, guys, without any interruptions from 24th of October. Sorry, why I'm going to October? It is 24th of September. Okay, from 24th of September, we'll be having both online and offline classes as usual, guys. I'm sure we are not going to have this interruptions again. Okay, so coming to the discussion, what actually we are doing in the last class is under your app.jsx. So we created this multiple components. Now we are clear about how to use this component. And coming to the more reasons, we have even used I think did we use the API? I think like I was showing you that how do we hit the API and get the data? How do we use this external Axios API into the page? But we have not seen how do we render this dynamic data onto the page. But what we have seen is we have hard coded some responses. You see, more responses is one of the array of JSON file what we have hard coded, and we could able to iterate over the JSON iterate over the array, and we could able to render the data onto the page, the dynamic data onto the page. Okay, so that is what we discussed about the JSX file, right? So JSX file is mainly JavaScript with XML. Okay, we can also call it as JavaScript with extensible content, where we could able to directly access the JavaScript variables within the HTML file. So if you see, I mean, within the HTML or markup code. So under this, we can directly use it, and not just on, and in order to loop it, anytime we want to loop under the JSX, we'll be always using the dot map method, right? So array dot map method, and it is going to take the callback. So this is all we discussed in the last class. So, and on the top, not just only the looping, we can even put some conditions. Okay, we can even iterate over a JSON. We have seen only iteration over the array. What if like you want to go with the JSON? Because if you go into the JavaScript, in order to iterate over the array, we always go with either the for loop or for each looping control structure. If at all you have to iterate over the JSON object, we always use the for in looping control structure, right? So if that is the case, what are we going to use within your JSX in order to iterate over the JSON? Okay, so that also we'll have, like we'll be using some object called dot keys method and all. At the same time, not just only iterating over the JSON object, we can even add some conditions within the JSX. Okay, like for example, so and so condition, what need to be done? The component has to be different component. If it is a different condition, what component has to be used? So those things we'll be discussing. But before that, a lot of people are asking this. The very first thing we need to understand the folder structure of the React app which is being created, isn't it? So the first thing is we need to know that what actually the folder structure being created, whatever the folder structure, whatever the minimum folder structure which we got get created by using the white. You guys already know how do we create a React complete project. Okay, right? We have some command, right? Using the white, we could able to create this complete project. And under this complete project, what all these individual files are doing. So let's have an understanding of that. So I'll create a running notes. Okay. So let us discuss about the folder structure. Okay. Okay. So let us see what actually the folders first you look into. The very first folder, what you see over here is node underscore modules. So any piece of questions, guys, like can anyone answer what actually this node underscore modules folder holds? So when I say node underscore modules, which is the very common file or common folder, you might be having an idea. Anyone, what actually this node modules is? What are dependencies used in the app? Okay. Anyone else? What does this node underscore modules folder contains? Anyone else? Basic node packages and the dependencies, Ganesh. Okay. Next, external packages. Okay. That's it. Okay. Obviously, whenever we are using any of the React application, Angular application, whatever we go, we will be depending on the third party. Okay. So we will be depending on the third party node modules into your project. Okay, within your project, like when I go with something called as React is a third party library, right? We are not creating it. We are already making use of the one which is already existing. Okay, under that Bootstrap, we will be using jQuery. We will using, if I go with some Angular, if I go with some Axios, if I go with some Formic, if I go with some like Yup library. So there are like n number of external node modules will be available, which will be used in your project. Okay, so what does this node module contains? It's a predefined it's a predefined folder. Okay, why the reason I'm saying it's a predefined folder? We cannot change the name of this folder. If you say that no, instead of node modules, I want to go with something else. I want to make it as a my set of packages or some packages, it is not possible. So the name of the folder should be always the same, node underscore modules. It is a predefined folder which holds the list of all the dependent packages, all the dependent packages, all the dependent node packages from current project. Okay, so what actually this node module contains? The node module contains the list of all the predefined or the dependent node modules, whatever the node modules the current package is depending on, those all will be part of your node underscore modules folder. Any questions up to this? Okay, so now when I say something called as public folder, can anyone tell me why the reason we go with this public folder? Why the reason we hold this public folder? Come on, anyone, what is the use of this public? No one. Why the reason we go with this public folder, guys? Okay, so it actually holds the list of static resources. Okay, it actually holds the list of static resources. What do you mean by the static resources? The resources which are not being used within, I mean, the resources which are not being compiled or not being executed within your React. Okay, React is not going to compile that. Okay, just make use of it in mostly something called as the images. Okay, so mostly the images which will be falling under the public folder, the one which actually been used, images we can say SVG. Okay, even SVG also falls under the images only. SVG, GIFs. Okay, the static resources which is not being executed within from your React. React is not going to execute anything. It will just make use of that file. That's it. Okay, so those all files will be under your public folder. And under your SRC, I will take it to the last because that is the main thing. And along with that, what actually this git ignore file is? So what actually this git ignore, guys? Anyone? Okay, we can access anywhere throughout the project if something is not important, which is placed in this. Ravi, it is not like important because if it is something not important, we wouldn't have been used inside the project. Okay, it is not like important. The one which is like static resources in the sense, for example, in yours, when you go, forget about the React guy. When I'm going to the web server, for the web server, if I say that .html, .css, .javascript, web server doesn't execute that guy. He just simply holds that guy. So for the web server, that guy is a static resource. But coming to the React, React actually executes the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. But when I come to the image file, I have given my profile picture as something called as abc.png. Now, do you think that the abc.png has to be executed by the React guy? Guys, if you're not talking, please go into mute. Okay, now if I given my profile picture something called as abc.png, do you think that React will execute that abc.png? Do I need to compile that PNG? No, right? So those resources has to be kept inside the public. Static resources in the sense the one which is never executed or compiled, just make use of it. That's it. Okay.
Okay, yes,
Now
sir. Sir, just a minute, one few question over there. So
go
suppose,
ahead.
yeah, so there is one public folder, but also there is some in asset folder, asset folder as well. So there also use the same. So in that case, what is the difference between these two folder and this folder?
If you go into the
Assets,
SRC,
yeah, assets,
assets,
yeah.
what actually these assets are actually, right, these images should not be part of this. These images has to be coming into the public folder only. Assets means the one which are being used inside the project, which is your CSS and images.
Okay, so
Assets is the file.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
in this case, we can place a CSS folder, CSS part as well in the asset folders, right?
In your assets, yes, we will be keeping the CSS file which is common across the project. Now, for
Okay,
example, if you see inside the components, under the more reasons, I have this more reason.css file. I
right.
have this more reason.jsx. This is the component and it is the CSS which is for the a particular component. For example, I'm giving one of the CSS file which is common across the project. Okay, in that case, I can actually keep inside the assets folder. Anyway, assets I will discuss later, but just to answer your question, assets is the folder which holds the resources which will be used inside the component.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Next. Yeah. So what do you mean by this dot git ignore, guys? Okay, so dot git ignore is the name itself specifies that what are the list of resources which should be ignored by Git, which should be ignored by Git, while what are the list of resources which should be ignored by Git while monitoring. Okay, so what do you mean by this while monitoring? And while monitoring in the sense, we can say while monitoring history or check, not even history, we can say that while monitoring for submitting it to Git. Okay, now let us say this. For example, I just have this more reasons.jsx. Okay, for example, I am doing some changes instead of this FE paid, I made it a small uppercase to smaller case. Now, when I go into this folder structure, if you go into this UI classes, where is our React project? So React, now when I go with this Netflix app, when I go into this SRC, when I go into this component, when I go into this more reason, that did that made a red symbol over here, which is indicating that there are some changes in this particular file, which is not matching with the github.com file. Under the GitHub, we have already submitted this file, but this is not matching dot is get, and when I say something called as commit. Now when I say commit, you see here, this is the file which has been added. Now when I go with this show the difference, okay, you see this is what the difference which is there. You see earlier it was there something like this. Now you have modified something like this. Okay, so this is the piece of code which has been indicating. So why the reason Git is automatically telling this as a, I mean, this is the file into the red color, which is indicating that, I mean, which is actually indicating that there is some changes. For example, if I try to add any of the file within your node modules, we already discussed that, right? Do you really think that this node modules, for example, when I go into our github.com, right? If I go into your github.com, I think I need to sign out. This. Okay, let me sign in. Okay, when I go into this Durga Prasad UI classes, when I go into folder under this, the Netflix web app, under this, you see here, I have the public folder, I have the SRC and the remaining files. Why the node modules is not been included? Why the node modules we have not submitted? The reason is, why the reason I have to submit was because node underscore modules are the folder which is not been created by me. If I give my folder to any one of you guys, if you guys want to really run this Netflix web page into your local, you can directly say npm install. It will automatically go into your package.json file. It will be listing out whatever the dependencies we have, what all the list of modules you have. You can download it manually in your system itself. Then why the reason now here, for example, you guys have given me a pen drive. Boss, could you please copy your project? Then why the reason unnecessarily I need to occupy the space by copying these node modules here? I will skip this node module. I will give only these files here. Because node modules you don't need to submit into the Git or you don't need to copy into your pen drive. The reason is once it gets the project comes into your local system, if you simply say npm install, it will automatically install all the files for you. If that is the case, why the reason I need to go with node modules? Now I need to tell to my GitHub guy or I need to tell to my Git client saying that any type of changes being done in your node modules, you please ignore it. Okay, you don't need to do any type of monitoring on this particular folder. You don't need to say that, okay, something got added, something got removed. Now you need to put into the Git. You don't need to do that because we are all, it is a completely ignored folder. So any of the files, the packages, the folders which need to be ignored by the Git client has to be added under your Git ignore file. Okay, now when I go with this git ignore, you see what actually we have here under the git ignore. What we have added was anything called as logs. Okay, anything which is extending with something called as dot log asterisk. Any folder which is called as node modules. Any folder something called as dist folder. Anything which is dist-ssr. Anything which is asterisk dot local, anything which is .vs code, anything which is .idea, ds store, these all are the files which should be ignored by you. For example, if you see here, no, node modules also, I want to submit it, not needed. For example, if I remove an entry of this, okay, for example, when I'm removing an entry, now when I'm saving this guy, now you say, see here, it will be even trying to submit the changes of node modules also into this. It is taking some time because like, Mhm. Yes, it will take some time because like it's like too much of files which are going to come, right? Now, if I remove this guy, it will start showing you the list of all the node modules saying that boss, do I need to submit this? Okay, which is not at all a valid case. Okay, so this is what your git ignore guy is. Anything which is being added inside the git ignore that indicates that for the git client, please ignore it. Please ignore in monitoring it. You don't need to monitor it, just leave it out. It will be automatically added, or sorry, it will be ignored, and you don't need to monitor anything. I don't want to submit these files into your git. That is what that indicates. Any questions on this git ignore?
No, sir. Yeah, that's great. Sir, here like we can also see there is third option as well in the Git in VS Code. In VS Code, also we can able to see. So the third line, and there is Source Explorer. Source Explorer. After that, there is some arrow things over there. Yeah, change set where we can use the Git for just for pull and push up purpose. Yeah. Above
Uh,
explain above extension. Their extension there is five file. There is five is indicated. Five indicated just
okay,
top.
you mean to say this
Yeah, yeah,
guy, source
yeah,
controller.
yeah.
Okay.
Here also we are able to see those things is included in the for just pulling purpose, just for testing whatever
Okay.
you saw the yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, this extension I'm not talking right now
Okay,
because
okay, yeah.
this is the extent. I mean, our current explanation, what we are doing is we are going with the folder structure, but your point is right. uh, Instead of using the Git client, the Tortoise, SVN, etc., VS Code also automatically comes with one of the extension here, using which you can again monitor the seeing the difference, or like a list of all the changes being done on the particular file. Those all things merging or like submitting into the Git. Those all things can be even monitored or done that can be done with the changes using your extension itself. But to be frank, guys, I generally recommend people to use the VS Code just for the editing purpose. With my experience, what I'm using. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are very much comfortable, you can start doing that because I mean, people say that why you're not using the terminal within the VS Code. Okay, that day I was discussing about the terminal. Terminal is a injected command prompt which is being added directly to the VS Code itself. I can do the same with an external command prompt. Now, what I feel like when we are developing the project, to not to get confused between the files, actually we are using the VS Code as a one single tool which is capable of doing everything. But I dedicatedly use my VS Code just for editing purpose. If at all I have to do some any git changes to be submitted, I go with the Tortoise SVN instead of VS Code extension. If at all I have to run some commands on my project, I'll be going with a dedicated command prompt instance. But anyway, it's up to you perspectively. I mean, you can choose the one what you wanted, but I will discuss about this extension also. Like what if like I want to submit the changes just by using this VS Code extension without using the tortoise git and all, we will go for that. Okay. So any questions with this git ignore file? Anyone? Everyone is so clear, right? So under this git ignore, just to mention once again, we are going to add an entry of list of all the files which need to be ignored. And we can even write some pattern also, guys. For example, if you see here, he has not specifically mentioned that uh, something called as file name here. You see, astic.suo implies when I say astic.suo, it could be abc.suo, it is pqr.suo, it could be so and so.suo. I mean, any file with an extension called as SUO. In the same way, when you see this line number 3, what is this astic.logo? It will be sorry, astic.log. There is something called as a log files which is getting generated in your local. So there could be some abc.log file, like header file.log file, ABC, I mean anything, any extension, any file name with any extension. So we are is actually using the patterns. Okay, not specifically that so and so abc.log. I'm not adding any of the file names, or instead of that, we can directly put the patterns also with any of the extensions. Okay, so that will be part of your git ignore file, which is very much mandatory when you're submitting into the git. And the other file what we have is we have something called as eslint.config.js file. So what do you mean by this eslint.config.js file? Anyone? Anyone? Any questions? Anyone? Any idea? So what actually this guy? Okay, for example, if I open this guy, so what do you mean by this? Configuration file. Obviously, like as it is configuration file, that is the reason we generally use this .config file here. So what does this generally contains, guys? So don't save. Okay, so what actually this configuration file contains? This is the file which is going to have the configuration regarding the ECMA versions and ECMA standards. Okay, everybody know what do you mean by this? ECMA, right? The European Computer Manufacturing Association, which we already discussed. So ECMA is one of the organization who actually provides the standards for the JavaScript. I mean, in fact, it does. He's not providing only for the JavaScript. He provides for every other project, but JavaScript is also one of the language which actually follows the ECMA standards. Now, under the ECMA, we have lots of versions, isn't it? We have something called as ECMA 6, we have ECMA 7, currently ECMA 21, which is going to happen. So now under this ECMA configuration, we are going to specify which version of ECMA you're going to make use. If you see this line number 17, we are going to say that please use the ECMA standards which are being added or which are being defined under the year 2020. In the same way, if you want to go with this, say, for example, 2021 or the latest version, or what is the ECMA standards? Do you need to support the JSX files? Do you need to support the TSX files? Those all configuration related files or configuration related things will be added under the ESLint configuration. So here we are going to specify the configuration related to ES or ECMA version. Okay. So we are going to specify that the configuration which is related to the ECMA version, we are going to add it under ESLint config.js. And someone asked us, Ravi, ES ECMA feature equal to JSX true. So this is what I'm indicating. I mean, if what I'm saying is what all the extensions which need to be supported. Now I cannot say that a folder which is supporting both JSX and TSX. I mean, we can do that, but if at all I have to do, for example, in future, I even want a TypeScript file also has to be created. Then I can simply say JSX equal to true, comma, the TSX equal to true. So I'm telling my the ECMA related configuration saying that what all the file extensions I'll be using, what things has to be executed. So those things will be added under the ESLint configuration. I mean, ES is the shortcut for your ECMA, guys. Okay, people even ask that what is the ES version you are using? ES6, ES7, ES8. Or people will be asking what is the ECMA version? Both are going to be the same. Okay, so this is about your eslint.config.js file. And coming to the index.html. So what does this index.html? It is the main or master page of complete project under complete project with SPA architecture. Okay, so what do you mean by this SPA architecture, which is a single page web application? If you remember, we were discussing this guy. What do you mean by the single page web application? Under the single page web application architecture, we won't be having multiple HTML files. Okay, React strictly follows the single page web application concept. Under this, we are not going to create multiple .html files. We created this Netflix app. Okay, do you think that we have created multiple HTML files or multiple individual files here? No, we just have one single index.html. Under that, we have some multiple .css. I mean, under that, we have created multiple components and we are injecting the same into the HTML. So that is the master page, which we call it as a index.html. You can even rename that. It's not mandated that it has to be only index.html. You can even rename it as master.html, abc.html, anything you can do. Okay. Next, when I say something called as package.json file. So what do you mean by this package.json file, guys? It is the main file, okay, holds list of dependent, okay, it holds list of what all actually it holds here, list of module, list of dependent modules. Okay, at the same time, it will be holding the project name, project description, okay, author details, okay, and start scripts, okay, etc. So what actually the package.json contains? The package.json contains the list of all the dependent modules, what actually the project name is, what actually the project description is, who is the author, what actually the start scripts are doing. So these all things will be part of your package.json file. Okay, so any questions up to this? So package.json is equal to the heart of your application, guys. Anytime you're running your project, you simply say that npm start. You may say that npm run dev. Where actually it is going, the very first file, what actually it will be looking into is, it will be looking into the package.json file. It will open the package.json file. From here, when you say npm start, I will come over here. What do you mean by start? I will look into this. If you say npm something called as npm run dev, whenever you say npm run dev, this is the one what I'm going to look for. When I say npm run build, this is the one what I'm going to look for. I mean, every other command, whatever the command you're generally giving while you're executing your project, that will be first coming into your package.json file. If you say npm install, I will be going into this package.json file. I'm going to do. If this package.json is not there, none of the commands is going to work for you. It will simply throw an error saying that I couldn't able to find out a file called as package.json. Are we clear? Next, when I say something called as package.log, package-log.json file, can anyone tell me what do you mean by this package-log.json? If you see, this is how the package.json is there. Okay, when I say package-log.json, this is how I have. I'm a lot of entries into this. Now, can anyone tell me what do you mean by this package.log.json? And one more thing you see here in the Git, we don't submit the package.log.json. We only add package.json, but not package.log.json. Now, can anyone tell me what do you mean by this? What is the package log.json? Anyone? Come on, guys, you might be having an idea of this uh, by now. No one? Okay. What actually this package log.json contains is this guy have entry of every other node module, whatever we are depending on. Okay, let us take an example. For example, I say that, boss, I want to depend on one of the node modules, something called as ABC node module. I'll say PQR is one of the dependency. I say something called as test is one of the node module. I have three node modules, whatever I am dependent on. This guy, we will be adding under your package.json. You see, under the package.json, under the dependencies, you're going to say that what is Axios, which version, Bootstrap, we are dependent on, Bootstrap icons, we are depending on, React, we are depending on, React-DOM, we are depending on. So that is what we are going to add. If I say ABC, I'm depending on, PQR, I'm depending on, test, I'm depending on, which you are adding under the package.json. What if this ABC guy internally depending on some other module? ABC is depending on something called as say some sample guy. Okay, he's depending on uh, uh, say some one guy, say some two guy, say some three guy, and this three guy is depending on something called as four guy, something called as five guy. Five guy is depending on something called as six guy. Boss, we added an entry of only ABC, but ABC is depending on some four modules. That four module, there is one module which is depending on some other two modules. Under the two module, one guy is depending on some other module. Now, how do I need to install all of them? Obviously, yes. In order to make the application to work, I need to install all the other modules, right? Let's have a look on this. For example, if you see here under your package.json, you mentioned as Axios. Okay, let us come back here under your node modules. If you see this Axios guy, if you see this Axios.js, Axios got installed. Okay. Do you see there is a different package.js file under the Axios.js also? Okay, let us explore what actually that guy is having here. Okay, so if I open this guy, this is the package.json for this. Okay, what is the package folder, description, author, etc. and all. If you see the dependencies, what all it is having. Okay, access guy is not depending on anything. Okay, let us look into this key here, the
Al-
dependencies.
Already there, sir.
Okay,
Already
if
there.
you see here, yeah. So if you see here, line number 61, what all the dependencies it is having? It is depending on three modules, which is follow hyphen redirects, form hyphen data, proxy from environment. Now, if you see here, follow hyphen redirects, right? Do you see that module is installed here? Have we installed that module? You see here, follow hyphen this thing. You see, is that is also been installed. So you have actually mentioned about only Axios module, which is already installed. But along with Axios module, this follow hyphen is that. You see here, follow hyphen redirects also been installed. Okay. Now if I open this follow hyphen redirects, is he is also having some package.json? Okay. Yes. Let's have a look on this. So if I open this guy, do you have any dependencies here? He's not having any dependencies. So now if you open this package hyphen lock.json, if you open this package lock.json, I say Axios. Do you have we added an entry of the Axios guy? Yes. Axios guy is depending on Axios guy. Where is this? Axios guy is depending on follow hyphen redirects. But if you see under your log.json, have we added entry for the form this follow redirects also? Yes. So that is what your package log.json will be done. So what actually this guy is a dynamic file gets automatically created every time we use npm install. Whenever we say something called as npm install, a dynamic file will be automatically created. Okay, now for example, if we remove this, okay, I don't want to use this guy. Package.log.json got removed. Now if I say cmd, okay, whenever I say npm install, the very first thing what it will do, it will go to the package.json. It will see what all the node modules I have dependent on. List of all the node modules, I'm going to create a file which we call it as package.log.json. You see, this file got again created. Any number of times you delete this, it automatically gets created only when you say npm install. Okay, that is the reason this package log.json, we are not going to create it. We will be directly giving to the end user itself. I mean, we'll be saying that, okay, package log.json, I mean, when we are giving a project to any of the, when we are sharing this package for complete project to someone else, they will simply say npm install. That's it. They will automatically, it will automatically create a package log.json. At the same time, it will be installing the node modules. That is the reason this file is also not been added into the Git. Why so? We have added the git ignore file. Under the git ignore, you see package log.json also will be part of it. Why the reason? What is this? Is this got modified? Did I do anything here? Node modules. Actually, package log.json also should be part of this because we don't need to submit this guy into the Git. Okay. So any questions about this package log.json, guys? Anyone? Okay, when we do all the versions of dependency added, okay, Pramila, when we do npm install, it uses package log.json file to install rather than package.json. Uh, your point is right. Whenever you say npm install, it will be installing all the node modules based on the package log.json. But the question is how the package log.json will be created. Whenever you say npm install, first of all, I will go to the package.json file. I will see what all the dependencies user has added. Now, based on the dependencies, I'm going to create a package log.json. After creating the package log.json, yes, then I'm going to install each and every node module based on the package log.json. Am I clear, Pramila? Any questions, guys? Okay. Now, the next one, what we have is README, which is a very common file, readme.md. Okay, what actually this guy is? Okay, what actually this guy contains? It's a very simple file which actually holds the list of, the extra description what you want to give. Okay, the description we would like to add, or description we can say, or documentation. Okay, whatever the documentation, whatever the description we would like to add for the current project. For the current project. Okay, that will be part of your readme.md file. And based on this readme, now if you see here, currently what is my readme you have? So it is saying that expanding this ENTLIT, this is the information where it will be shown in general when you go to your react.js folder, right? Netflix web app. Okay, if you see here, whenever I'm going into this folder, at the bottom, you can see some description. You see React plus white. Okay, this is the template. This is so and so, so and so. This is the one what we are adding. Where actually this content has come from? You see, this is the one. React plus white. This is the content. I mean, this is the extra notes what we are adding for our current project. Whenever you go into any of the project within your GitHub, it will automatically open the README, it will execute and it will show that README file of this. For example, I'm going to any of the existing project, say something called as I can say React sample. Okay, someone would have been created some React sample applications, right? You see, some auth samples is the one what he has created. Now, I don't know anything about the project. Now, you see, when you scroll down, you see what actually auth zero React samples means. This is the minimum description he has added, and it is nothing to do with the project. If I delete this README, nothing going to happen for me, but this file is going to help me to understand what actually this project is and where this content is coming from. You see, it will be part of your readme.md file. Okay, so this is what the code they have added. The same thing is getting executed whenever we open this project. Either you can use the readme under your editor, or else when it goes into the GitHub, you can even get that using your readme.md file. Am I clear, guys? Everyone understood what you mean by this readme? Okay. Now, what actually this the most important one, which is your white.config.js file. What do you mean by this white? What actually this white guy is? People call it as wit also, white or wit, whatever it is. What actually that guy is? What is the use of this white wit guys? Guys, anyone? We discussed about something called as bundler, exactly, Lokesh. So this is the bundler what we are going to use in our React project. If you remember, okay, what are the other bundlers we have? JavaScript bundlers other than white, what all the other bundlers we have? Webpack, okay, nice. Next, parcel, great. So we have something called as white, we have something called as webpack, there is something called as rs build. Okay, there is something called as parcel. Okay, turbo pack. There are like n number of bundlers we are going to have. So every time we are going to make use of the React application, Angular application, we need to specify what is the bundler we are going to use. We already discussed this. What actually the bundler will do? He will be helping us in compiling it. He will be helping us in minifying it. He will be helping us in merging multiple files into form a single file. He will be helping us in minifying the content. I mean, a lot of things it's going to do. For example, if I go with something called as webpack.js. Okay, if you open this webpack.js file, you see this is the image what they have given. What does this bundler webpack is going to do, boss? You give me the .js file, you give me the SAS file, you give me the JPG, etc., etc. Hell lot of things you're going to do. But I'm going to bundle all of them into the JS file, the CSS file, the JPEG, or the PNG, etc. That's it. The main intention of bundler is when you are writing, for example, if you see in your project, when you go into the SRC, I have this assets folder. I have this components. Under the components, you have this .css file. You might be using 100 components in your single application, right? You're going to make use of 100 CSS files, 100 components. Now, 100 components will be 100 JSX files you'll be having, 100 CSS files you'll be having. Now, when you're combining all of them into your index.html, whenever it is running on the page, okay, now I say npm run dev. Now, when I'm doing this npm run dev, when I'm using this npm run dev, okay, now when I'm doing this, this is how it is coming. Okay, the package is coming. But now if you see, and I'm going into the source code, do you see any type of, I mean, the main.jsx is the one which is getting added. Okay, then what about the other JSX file? How they are getting added onto the page? I can't see that, right? I mean, if you see that main.jsx is the one which is getting added as a module. Okay, what about this more response? What about this page content? What about this movie slider? How those are getting added? Those all are getting added dynamically. Now, for example, right now, when I give this file, this is not a compiled version. This is not the file which I can give to the deployment. This is a temporary server which got created. Temporary web server got created, and he is just entering the content for you. Now, how do I actually run this application? You know how do we do this? Actually, in order to run this guy, we have to build this project. Right now, this is a developer version. For the developer, he is internally making use of some localhost 5173 and it is running. But that is a developer version. It is not a compiled version. How do you generate a compiled version? You know what we do? We have to build this guy. We say npm run build build. What do you mean by this build command? The build command will actually compile the React application, convert into simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. You might be writing the JSX, you might be writing everything. It is JSX is working fine under your React environment. But when it comes to the browser, it is not React environment, right? It is a simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript is the one what we wanted. So when I say npm run build here, you know what is going to do? It is going to build the file, and you see there is a new folder folder which gets created, which is called as a dist folder. Now, if I open this dist folder, you see I am going to have this index.html file. Under the assets, I'm going to have the some JS files, some JPEG files. So these are the final files which will be used. You see, one single JS file got created. You see, when I'm expanding this guy, if I open this dist folder, okay, when I go into this assets, when I go into this index dot so and so, you see, this is the one which got finally created. Okay, this is the compiled version of the code what we have created. All the components got added into this. Okay, what is the final CSS? This is the final CSS what it has created by combining the bootstrap, etc., everything. Because for the browser, when I'm creating the components, I might be creating 100 components. Do you think that 100 JSX files will be injected to the page? No. That is what our white guy is doing. Now, when I say npm run dev, when you go into your package.json, you see npm run dev. White is the bundler which we are using. When you say npm run build, you see build guy. White is the build file or the bundler we are using in order to build the complete code. Am I clear? So this is how the uh, what do you say? This white bundler is going to help. So that type of configurations we are going to define under your white.config.js file. Okay, that file contains the list of all the configuration. Okay, what actually we'll say, we are going to have the is the configuration file for VITJ, white bundler. Okay, what actually this white bundler is, it is a fast, modern front end build tool. Okay, so what all the key, I mean, we are going to have the list of all the configurations like what server it has to use, what plugins it has to use, what port number, those all things it is going to have inside the white config.js file. Okay, whatever the configurations which is related to the white, we are going to add it under the white config.js file. I have some questions. Ganesh, all bundlers are open source or paid when we use for enterprise grade application. Currently, these all are even if you use it for commercial also, Ganesh, it is for free of cost. In fact, like React itself is free of cost, right? Even if you go with the libraries like your React, Angular, and all, those are free of cost. On the top, third party plugins, if we use to enhance it or to make use of the predefined features what they're providing, in that case those are paid version, but currently those are free. Either it is the bundler, either it is a React library, those all things are free of cost we are going to make use. Okay, in the same way, currently, this is the React project what we have created using the white bundler. That is the reason white config.js has been there. For example, if I would have been used the webpack, you might be having some webpack.js. If you use something called as parcel, you might be having some parcel.js. If you are using some rs build config.js. So like this, a separate configuration JS file will be created regarding or for the corresponding bundler into each and every project. Okay. Now, the master page. After this, all the files and the folders, what actually this SRC folder indicates. So what does this SRC folder indicate? It contains the source code or files which are related to React. Okay, which are related to React code. So under this SRC, the main file what you have is something called as main.jsx file. What do you mean by this main.jsx? The module which gets loaded from index.html. If you open your index.html, the file what we are pointing is main.jsx file. So this is the very first one which comes into the picture. So under your main.js, actual React code is going to come into the picture. Okay, it is saying that you see create React mode. If you remember, this is what we are doing, right? Create root. Okay, create root is the one what we have under the dot render method. If you remember, this is what we were using earlier. Okay, so that piece of code, I mean, the initial React injection of React into your project is being done using your create root method, and those all things are part of your main.jsx file. Okay, so any questions up to here? Is everyone good? Okay, under the main.jsx, now what all we have, the very first file which comes into the picture is app.jsx file. Okay, so now you say app.jsx, which is the main component of project, which is your app. You see, under your main.jsx, you're using a component called as app. How does this app.jsx is come and app is coming? It is actually coming from the app.jsx. Now you know what all the things which are getting loaded from the app.jsx. Now, what is this components folder? That is the folder which we have created. What is the assets folder? The common images, the common CSS across the project can be kept under the SRC. Sorry, under the assets folder, or you can make use of the public folder also. In general, it has to be public folder, but yeah, it's up to you wherever you can place it. Okay. So any questions on this folder structure, guys? I know a lot of people were asking this question. Like what actually we don't have an idea of so and so file and all. Now you should be clear regarding any of the React project which is been given for you. And you see here, this dist folder also is part of this git ignore. When I open this git ignore, you see he has even added this dist folder. What does this dist folder contains? Dist folder contains the build files, the compiled version of the code. Okay. Folder consists consists of compiled version of project. So which is production ready code. Okay, this is a complete production ready code. Whenever we are saying that I want to deploy into the production. Okay, so where actually we will go? We'll be going with the dist folder only. Dist folder is the one which is, because if you see under your dist folder, when I'm giving to the browser, browser understands about this .js code only. Browser understands about this .css only. Browser understands this .html only. When you're giving to the browser, right? You can simply delete each and every code. Only this dist folder is there. That's it. That is more than enough for you. You can deploy your code into the project. I mean, you can deploy your project into your web server. Okay. Ankush, first executes main.jsx. Actually, the flow, how it comes is, for everyone, the flow is, yeah, the flow is the first file which comes into the picture is index.html. Index.html is the one first it gets comes into the picture. Under the index.html, you are using something called as main.jsx. Main.jsx will come into the picture. Now later app.jsx is going to come. Browser uses this index.html. That guy internally using main.jsx file. That guy internally using this app.jsx. That is how the flow comes. Am I clear, Ankush? Any more questions up to this? Anyone? Is everyone good with this folder structure? And some of you are mentioning in the chat, guys. I mean, it is not working or it is throwing any error when you're running inside your local. I think Ramya or someone who mentioned that your project is not running in your local. Anyone is facing that issue? You want to share your screen so that I can fix that? Anyone facing the same? You want to share your screen? Let me know, guys. I can help out here. No one? Okay, that is good. And everyone could able to run your local React projects, guys. So please do that. If you have any questions, please ping me and I can help out. Okay, so I'll pause it for today. Rohita, tomorrow we do have a class, sir. I will try my level best to take it, Rohita. But again, what is happening is, as you know, I'm into on-site. There are some very urgent things which are asking, and I need to do some presentations and I need to do the meetings. So that is the reason I am missing those class. My intention is to take the class every day, but because of this, some or the other work, it is missing. As I said, these things will be there until the September 24th. From there, I'm not going to add these type of interruptions. But yeah, regarding whether we have it or not, I'm going to let you know. Okay. Next, I have one issue going on, Ranbir. Yeah, please let me know. Okay, sir. Mention nights, sir, if possible, whether there or not. Sure, Rohita. I will try my level best to update you upfront itself. Uh, can you guide me while I'm doing a project? Obviously, I can do that, Ranbir.
Sir, for white in there is in package.json there is white preview over there. So what is those things command?
Which one you're talking about?
Yeah, in line number 10 and 9 and 10
Line number 9
and 10. Yeah. Lint,
and
yeah,
10.
yeah.
Okay, so these are, if you see here, these are the scripted files. Whenever you say script in the sense, these are not actually for the wide, these are actually for the compilation. You see, when you say something called as npm run dev, when I say npm run dev, where actually it is going, this is the one which is executing. Now, in the same way, npm run build, this is one executing. In the same way, npm run lint. For example, what do you mean by linting here? If at all you want to go with checking whether my current project is having any lint errors or not, you are not following any JavaScript rules or not. So that can be done by using something called npm run lint. So it will be checking the complete. You see here, there is a file which is called as page header.jsx. Under that, page background is undefined, but it is never used. So that is how, whatever the lint errors we have in your project, that can be executed. Did that answer the question, Ravi?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
I see the question, Ranbir. Can I share my screen? Ranbir, I just missed out the time. So is it is fine like the tomorrow's class when I start it, immediately you let me know. I will give the access for you. Then you can start sharing your screen. Okay. In the morning also, I have asked the question, but no one responded. So tomorrow, like when I start the class, immediately you tell me that you want to share your screen. I'll give you the access. You can share it and we can go on that. Okay. Because I need to start the other class now. Okay. Let's pause it for today, guys. Have a good day and bye for today.